All right, hello 14ers. Welcome back to Ministry Revealed. It is August. What? I'm in the wrong month. There we go. It is August 19th, 2019. Guys, yes, this time we were looking at came and went and we still haven't seen anything. But you know what? We know it's this year. All right? We know it's coming. I am going to show you some things today, a couple things as reminders. Plus, I'm going to show you where we're at right here in this week. We're right here today. I'm going to show you what is coming in this week, literally coming in this week, what has already begun, and what this time frame could actually be. Excuse me, we've spoken about it many times. I have bounced back and forth on it many times. But the difference was always 2 weeks. So I'm going to show you that again because there is great significance in something that's taking place right now during this week. And there's another thing that's an anniversary to this week. All right? And we know Israel's elections haven't happened yet. We know things are coming, guys. I know, it's, believe me, it's easy to be, it's easy to be a little grumpy and a little bit bummed. I get it. I was less bummed on this one, to be honest with you, because I appreciate all you guys that are sending me emails, in particular, some comments, but a lot of emails as well. It's okay. I'm good. I understand, but I appreciate it. I understand, guys, that there's no other year. We have broken it down from Genesis to Revelation in a couple dozen different ways, and everything proves that it's 2019. And I'm not talking November, December 2019. I'm talking between now and in October. And, we've had so many things, guys. Think of all the prophetic words. Excuse me. Not only me, all right? I'm not prophet. I'm not prophetic. I'm a teacher. I'm revealing these end-time understandings of these scriptures to help wake up some of the sleeping church so that we can hopefully be found accounted worthy, right? Watching and praying to be found accounted worthy of that place, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. So, excuse me. I'm not 4 days now instead of 3 like usual because I was all upset. Excuse me. Because I was all upset. It was just a weekend of birthdays, and it was my daughter's 14th birthday on Saturday. It was my father-in-law's birthday on Sunday, so that was where we had the family gathering. And then waking up this morning to a little bit of financial stress. So, as much as we know things are coming to an end, the beginning of the end, we should say, things we still got to try and deal with and make arrangements with and do whatever we can to, whatever we can, right? So, a little bit of a burden on that this morning. But having said that, I love it when I'm able to go back in videos. When I can come in and do teachings, right? When I can come in and break these things down so we can have a better understanding. Do we have it perfect? Absolutely not. Do we understand a lot more than over the last centuries? Even the last decades and the last few years? Absolutely. There is no denying who the Gospels are speaking to. There is no denying the books are opening. There is no denying the 14-year understanding. I mean, that's one of the craziest things to me ever. When we come to the understanding of the 14 years, that it's 7 years of seals and 7 years of trumpets, you just realize, like, wait a second, it was that the whole time. Six seal judgments and the seventh is rest. 6 trumpet judgments, the seventh is rest. And then when we're revealed over and over in like half a dozen scriptures that show that he returns at the end of the 13th year. I mean, guys, and that the 14th is that kind of cleaning up, patching up, and doing all that stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable how these things continue to come to light and continue to be revealed to us here in Ministry Revealed. And, we're very appreciative of all of you guys who are praying for us and praying for all of us brothers and sisters here in the ministry who have helped and are helping support us. It's so very appreciated, guys. And I am certainly not going to be bummed because we've missed on another date that we know is close. I am not going to sit here, guys. I promise you, I am not going to sit here in videos and say this feast and then this feast and then this feast. Oh, and if it's not this, then this feast. You're not going to get that from me. We're going to keep teaching and we're going to keep revealing. However, in this video, I am going to give people a little bit of comfort to remind them of things that not Alan Dubray has said. Alan Dubray here at Ministry Revealed, this guy, here's a little something for you guys, all right? This guy, there you go. Now you saw me real quick, but now you can pause. All right, that's me and my wife. This guy is following this process of these things being revealed. And there is no other year but 2019. However, these people, prophets, Seer, who's passed away, and this boy who died and went to heaven and saw the 2 days the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, would be destroyed. All right? That we knew when this prophet, Sidhu, when he said in 2017, but we didn't see it till I think either sometime in late 2018 or very early 2000, I think it was very early 2019, when he said that, if Trump doesn't complete his term, and we knew that it was not going to be Trump, that he was not going to finish his term. I think it was late last year, actually. And then in his July 1, he came out and said, the judgment has been decreed over the land. It's been decreed over America, and Trump will not finish his term now. So it's not going to be 2020, guys. We've known this for a long time. We've explained it. We've shown it. We've broken it down from every angle. All right? We don't have this day yet, but what is one thing that we've gone through so many times? Calendars. Calendars. I have never claimed to be the expert on calendars, nor have I ever proclaimed to be the expert on the sun, moon, and stars. But there are people in other parts of the world, there are people in history that have been, right? Nostradamus, when he predicted things, he would see them, or prophesied things, he would do it based on the sun, moon, and stars. All right? So I am not going to sit here and say Nostradamus, that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying as another confirmation, which fits right into this timeline of August that we've spoken about for so long now, of 2019. And all of these things, how they fit and they connect to right now. Remembering also that rabbi, right? That 108-year-old rabbi that they all went to, who was actually messianic, and it was in his message a year after he had died. And when they had asked him 40 years earlier, when he said, when Israel, that the Messiah will return, when Israel will have had elections, but there would be no government. And for 40 years, people had no clue what that meant. Until this year. You see, prophets, seers, dreams and visions, teachers are all pointing to right now. All right? So we're going to go into these things. I don't want I want to be able to clarify as much as we can. All right? I still stand on Zechariah. Zechariah is 14 years. From the perspective point of view of Judah. Hosea is 14 years from the perspective of the church. We've shown it in the Gospel of John. There's the 7 easy years which are about to end. And then you have 14 years, the final 14 years. And just like we showed in Zechariah, that at the end of the 13th to the beginning of the 14th, boom, the Lord returns on the Mount of Olives. When you see the sixth trumpet, you see it's over. There's a great earthquake because the Lord has returned on the Mount of Olives. When you read the story, like we said over and over again, I'll show you briefly. You see the story of Jacob and his two wives, and then the cattle, and he comes to a deal with his father-in-law, a covenant in the 20th year. You see it with Ishmael and Abraham in the 13th, and then who's born in the 14th? The promise. So it's over and over and over again. They're telling us, they're giving us the frame of events in their years. All right? They're giving us these things. And when we see in Zechariah chapter 7 for the year 2024, this is right now, 2019. I've shown this before too. If you take Zechariah chapter 1, why are you taking so long, Zechariah? Sorry, this is our trusted eSword, guys. Anybody can download it for free. It's called eSword. All right? I think it's esword.net that you can go to. You can download it for free. All right? This is 2019. We've broken it down many times. It says these 70 years when the Lord has had indignation for Jerusalem. And then he's sore displeased, and then boom, affliction comes. Well, look at how far down. If you go count the number of verses remaining, and then you see that the Lord's returning to, why? Because he's returning to exact vengeance, right? Remember when the rabbi even said when there's government, but when there's elections but no government, and the first time in Israel's history, he said that's when the Lord will return. This is the return he's talking about, not the one everybody's going to see, guys. All right? And you see here, he shall yet, thus saith the Lord of hosts, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad, and the Lord shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. See, he isn't coming to choose and to set up Jerusalem yet. Jerusalem is about to be attacked. And when you come down here, then you see the four horns that scattered Judah and Jerusalem and so forth. And look, how many verses are left? What, 4 verses left out of 21? Well, look at 2019 and look at where we're at. You know, October, it leaves what, a quarter of the year left? You see what I'm saying? I know you say, well, that's not really showing us that it's a quarter of the year. With everything else we've shown, and that we've shown through Zechariah and through all these books, I'm telling you, that's precisely what it's showing. It's just another simple little confirmation showing it to us. And there's where your affliction begins. When we get to chapter 7, here we go, right? When you fasted, when you mourned for 70 years. And this is where we start saying, well, wait a second, Alan. Wait a second. We thought that was back here, right? 7th of Av to the 9th of Av, right? They'd be destroyed. Only 2 days. Even that kid said it. He went to heaven. He saw these events play out. And he said in 2 days they'll be attacked and destroyed. Well, what if our calendar's wrong? I know I've bounced on the calendars. I am not a calendar expert. But you know what? There are some people out there that do claim to be more experts in these things than me. That's for darn sure. And this is one of those guys, Michael Shabbat. We've spoken about him many times. We've showed his calendar. In fact, I'm going to show it again. We've spoken about it many times. All right? You can go see this video. Pagan Day, Friday, August 16, 2019, is the first day of the 5th month. So what he's saying was, last Friday was the first day of the 5th month. You see, like a clock, for example, the Jews generally base everything off the moon, right? The Gentiles base everything off the sun. And what he shows is the sun with the moon and the stars as 3 witnesses. All right? This is how he explains it too. Like a clock. right? Like a clock. Don't worry about the month that we're in. But see, you have the hour hand, so you've got the sun, the moon, and the stars. You have three witnesses to what time it is, don't you? And that's kind of how he explains to say it's the same thing with the sun, moon, and stars to understand the true time and season. And in so doing, he has right here, he has the 7th of Av of this year actually on August 22nd. It's off by 2 weeks this year. Based on the sun, moon, and star cycle, when they come up, when they rest, where they're at in positions in the sky, based on certain times of the year. Okay, and with the second Adar this year, it made the difference, not 4 weeks off, but just 2. All right, they have a second Adar, he didn't put the second Adar, or vice versa. You can go study his stuff. I've looked at his stuff many, many, many times, and I have bounced back and forth because I keep saying to myself, how is it that the blood moons fell on the feasts? All right, so it doesn't mean, what were the significance of those blood moons for us? So far, we haven't understood them. I don't know anybody who has, because the events haven't happened based on what people would have thought on those events, right? But here we are this week, and let's have a look at everything involved that could still happen, and that is taking place, and that is an anniversary this year. All right? This is a big deal, guys, because there's a ton of things. One of the things, do you remember even the silly thing I showed? I'm not one to go out there and say the movie this or a TV show this, but remember I showed you that whole thing about Prison Break? I showed you how I don't know if it was season 1. I think it was season 1 or something like that. I can't recall. And I never watched it. I just started watching it. This was several months, a year ago maybe. And I thought, well, how many episodes in this series in season 1? And I went and looked, and you know what it said for the 19th episode, the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd. I said, whoa. You know, it was like go, escape, go, flee, escape, fly away, something like that. I was like, whoa, that's pretty wild, because the show was also called Prison Break. Well, here we are in a week again where we've got those numbers showing up. And I'm going to show you why it's significant. All right? Why is this potentially very significant? Well, let's not forget what Nostradamus said. All right? Let's look at that. We've shown, guys, we have shown you over and over and over again what the Scriptures have said. We've shown you the 7 easy years are coming to a pass. When they end, the seals begin. And when you do end portion of 2019 into 20 to the end portion of 2020, all right, and you follow it down like this, 2025 is that 7th year of rest. 2024 to the end of 2024, which is the first portion of 2025, that is the end of the 6th seal. This is the 7th seal of rest, and then your trumpets begin. When does the Lord return? At the end of the 6th trumpet, feet down on the Mount of Olives, which would be late 31 going into 32. All right? And that's the end of it. Then you have what I call cleanup and so forth. And then you have the final year. This is your 14th year. And then what do you have? Then you have the Jubilee year. All right? The restoration of each tribe to their land, which is the end, late 2023 into 2024. Now, could these be off by a month or so or something going on in there? Yes, because after all of the destruction and devastation that's going to hit from the 6th seal, think the years are no longer going to be running on 365. All right? That's why you see the first time frame of trumpets as 1260. It's going back to 360-day years by the end of 2024, or by the end of the 6th seal, which is, in that time frame, mid-ish late 2025. All right? And so we've gone through this. There's nothing else to equal the Lord's return, because he died at the end of 31. which is into 32. There's nothing that could equal that and that could reveal that. You see all these people that are saying, oh, 2028, and this priest, this pastor that was shown 21 years, he believed it started in 2008. So he believed that the second set of seven would have already begun, but nothing he said within that time frame has taken place. So what is everybody hopeful on? Well, by 2020 into 2021, that's when everything will happen. So what, for 7 years, there's nothing until the last ones? No. It is 7 years of seals, 7 years of trumpets. And the Lord wasn't crucified and resurrected in 28 AD. And here's what people fail to understand. You see, the 14 years, even in his 21, which is misplaced, he doesn't understand because it's revealed in the Scriptures. Many people have it through dreams, so they put things in the wrong place. Or they've had visions. And just like the boy, Nathan, who went to heaven, he thought everything was going to happen within months from when he had woken up and returned. He thought it was going to happen in 2015 that it would all begin. Why? Because in dreams and visions, trying to get the understanding is impossible. There's no time up there. Even Paul said about the space of John said about the space of half an hour for the seventh seal in chapter 8 of Revelation. So many people think it's this, they think it's that, they think it's no. But we, through the Scriptures, have been given these understandings. When I was getting frustrated and saying, man, how can it be, Lord? How can it be that it's at the end of 32 when everything you showed me showed at the end of 31? I know it goes into 32, but when I say the end of 31, it means to the end of that season of it, which is, later, mid-late 32, okay? So by the end of 31 is what everything shows. Because Christ wasn't born in 0, he was born in 2 BC. He crucified, died, and resurrected by the end of 31. So, how is it, Lord? And then it was revealed that everything we'd been shown in the 14, throughout all of this time and all of these books, showed that in the final year was when he returned. At the end of the 13th to the beginning of the 14th, boom, he's returned. With feet down on the Mount of Olives. You see, others don't understand that. They have no way of explaining or understanding that because they don't understand that the truth of seals and trumpets is 14 years. And the first 7 were the easy years, just as they were for Jacob. And they're coming to an end. All right? So, when we're looking at this, now let's see what we're talking about here. This time frame of many, many things. What do we have that Nostradamus, like I said, spoke about? Sorry, a little coffee. All right. What did Nostradamus talk about that we've spoken about? I mean, we don't go into all these things. It's just one was brought to our attention and we went and looked at it and it was amazing. Okay. What does Nostradamus talk about in his Century 5, Quatrain 25? We've covered this. The Arab prince, Mars, Sun, Venus in Leo. The church, the rule of the church will succumb by sea. Okay, that's very interesting because we see that type of language in Luke. In Luke 21, right? With the seas and the waves roaring, okay? Toward Persia, very nearly 1 million men, the true serpent will invade. Okay? So here we have the true serpent will invade, and over here we have the Arab prince. Okay? So you see the church succumbing by sea. You have 1 million men coming to invade. Invade where? Israel. And you have the true serpent who's going to be the one invading. And we have the Arab prince. Because, you'll see as we get going in this. All right? So this is what we're looking at here. We have Mars, Sun, Venus in Leo. I'm showing you guys the significance of this week. What has begun this week? Okay? August 2019, the 19th day, I'm showing from Jerusalem, just to show you guys. I stopped the clock at noon. You remember this? We did a video on this, guys. We did a video on this. And what does it show? Check it out. Mars, Venus, Sun in Leo. And you know why this was significant to me? Well, why it's going to be significant, I believe, to all of us? Because this is the time of year that this could happen. And guess what? I'm not going to show you every single year. I just don't want to drag you guys through all that. You can go do it for yourselves. This program is a free one as well. It's called Stellarium. Or you can just believe that I've never lied to you. And, oh, have I gotten dates wrong in time? Sure, but I've never purposely lied to you. I have gone through this to see when Venus, Mars, and the Sun were in Leo, and I went from the year 2000 to the year 2043, and I just got tired of doing it forward and backward. No time in those 43 years did Mars, Venus, and the Sun line up or conjunct in Leo, except this week of 2019. This week of 2019. How do you explain that, guys? How do you explain that this guy from 500 years ago, through watching the sun, moon, and stars, knew that this time frame of August, in the year that we have been watching for, that we have known for several months now, knowing that Trump would not complete his first term, knowing now also that the rabbi said, seeing the books that have opened that are speaking to once the 70 years are accomplished, and then seeing that Zechariah chapter 7 says, when you observe the fasting in the morning in the 5th and the 7th month, those past tense 70 years, when you inhabited the land, when you were in prosperity, all right? When, all past tense being no longer. And that's talking by the year 2025, 7 years later. You see, saying those 70 years from back 77 years ago. You see? So am I holding out hope that it is actually the creation calendar and not just based on the moon, but based on the sun, moon, and stars? I am. Now, am I holding hope? We need to clarify this all the time, guys. We're not... I add this in my prayers all the time at night. That, Lord, we're not... And He knows our hearts, guys. We're not looking to these things so that all of our enemies can be destroyed or all no, that's not what it is. Why are we doing Ministry Revealed? Why am I doing these teachings? To help wake up more and to bring more into understanding, because what happens? You guys get excited because you could see the scriptures opening up before you in understanding like you have never seen before. And what do? You go seek for yourselves. That's the greatest reward to Ministry Revealed. The greatest reward, bar none. That's why we do it. To bring more people in, to wake people up, to get them more excited for Him. And He is His Word. And so, here we are again. Right? Here we are. We're saying, well, Lord, we don't want this destruction to come, but we just so want to be with You. We so pray to be found accounted worthy, to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. But we know that these destructions must come, or there'll be nobody left to save. Everybody will just fall away and say, it's never going to happen. It's never coming. Whatever. Heard that before. That doesn't excite anybody. Was I excited to find out, when we wake up and nothing happened? Of course not. But do I know, was I still strong because of the Lord in me and the Spirit in me? Yeah, of course. But outside of that, that's the obvious answer. But outside of that, it's because I know. Over 15 videos, an hour and a half, sometimes longer, of scripture backed by scripture from front to back, books opening. I get it. I know it's coming. And Nostradamus said when we see that conjunction, it would be the time of the serpent to invade. The true serpent would invade. And don't forget, there's that Arab prince as well. Well, guess what? If this is the true 7th of Av, guys, let me tell you this. If there's an attack on Israel on the 22nd, well, guess what? The Hebrew calendar was actually wrong, and it was the creation calendar that was correct, and hold on tight. All right? Is the escape happening here? I have no idea. But it would be the beginning, it would appear, of the 40 days. And this would take us to, I think it's October 1st. All right? This would be, you see, for us it was revealed through Scripture that it would be a 2-day attack and that it would come on the 7th of Av on the 19th year. It showed it over and over again. We went through that many, many times. So, needless to say, when it didn't happen, this is the one that upset me the most. This is the one that hurt me the most. Because I kept saying, well, Lord, if you're showing me all these things and these books are all opening up, what happened? Is it possible that prayer could delay this? I believe it could have delayed it, but not anymore. The judgment has been determined, guys. It has already been determined. This is why I was more upset on this one than I was over here. But since this, and people sending me things and being reminded of the creation calendar again, this was the date. I'm going to show you that creation calendar again right here. All right, that's from the Mikhail Shabbat site I showed you about. So he's got the counts to the Sabbath, and you could see he's got first month, second month, third, fourth, fifth month, 2019. Okay, he's going from right to left. You have August, so this is the rest of August. So August started here. There's the rest of August. And then this is September. There's September. And then there's your October. So if we follow this fifth month, and we look at the days over here for the Hebrew month, for the Hebrew day it would be, there's your seventh day. So we go across. We're in the fifth month. There's August, Thursday the 22nd. And remember, it's not just Alan that showed from Scripture that it's 2-day attack and they'll be destroyed again in 2019. So did this young man, remember? That Nathan kid. He also, all right? He also showed us, give me 1 second here. I don't know why it suddenly got really slow. Anyways, so you know that kid, that Nathan kid, all right? That Jewish boy, was 15 at the time. So this is a big deal. Now let me show you something. This came from one of our brothers. I've talked about him recently, Charles. I'm going to show you this before we jump into even more. Here's Genesis, and when I spoke about this last time, this is what triggered him. Okay, let's go into Genesis. Again, it's one of those parts that we've spoken about to show the truth of the 14 years and to show that Messiah comes in the 14th year, not at the 15th year, right? Not at the end of the 14th, but at the start of the 14th, all right? After 13 years. So what do we get here? We have Abraham, who has his first son, whose name will be Ishmael, who is affliction. He's a wild man, and every man will be against him, all right? And him against all of them. Why do you think they're always fighting in the Middle East, all right? It's a representation as a whole. But we thought this was really interesting. He thought it was interesting that he wanted to share it with me, and I thought I'd share it with you guys as well because I found it interesting. So Abraham was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Okay? So we know that one. So 86 years old when Ishmael was born. All right? And when Abraham was 100, Isaac was born. Remember the 14th year, right? So in the 14th year, the promise comes. Well, guys, check this out. If, for example, we go to, I'm just trying to, how would I show it easy in a calendar? Let's just go with this. Knowing that a year, we keep showing you, a year isn't from January. We've known that for a long time now, right? So if we say about mid-year to about mid-year, just as an example to show you this, all right? So we'd say there's the year 2000, so it'd be 99, 2000. Okay, so part of 99 and part of the year 2000. If we go back, because what happens here, guys, if we look back to 2,000 years ago, and we look at Jesus, for example, being born, all right, in that around 0, right? We know it's the 2 BC, but there was no 0, okay? So if we look at that, and we say, okay, we look at when Jesus was born, and we say, for example, that 99 to 2000, okay? So you go to the year 99, 2000, and it's 2,000 years later. So it would be as if it's the birth of Christ. But if Isaac is the representation of Christ, which he is, then we need to go back 14 years from 99, 2000, right? And go back 14 years. And how old would Abraham be? Right? It would be 1985, 1986. And Abraham would be 86 years old when he had Ishmael, correct? So you got 85, 86, where Abraham has Ishmael, to the year 99, 2000, where the Lord would be born. And then you have the 33 more years to where Christ is crucified, died, and resurrected, which is in the year 31 into 32. All right, you following me? So, with that being the case, our brother Charles said when he heard the number 86 for Abraham's birth or his years when Ishmael was born, he thought, well, let's go back from that time frame and see if there's an Ishmael born in that time frame. You following, guys? I thought it was awesome. I was like, oh, what a great idea. So what if we go back? Can we find an Ishmael born in this time frame? And what does Daniel tell us about him? About this, the Antichrist character when he'll come. All right? He'll be here first. He'll be in power, but he's not the white horse rider and so forth. That's the spirit coming out of Ishmael, right? The spirit of the raven, the spirit of Ishmael, the spirit of the Antichrist. All right? But first he's from the north. But for the first attack, right? That comes from the north, which is why we see in the quatrain, we see him saying from Persia, nearly 1 million strong that are going to surround and attack, right? That would be, I think, the time frame of the second attack. The first one would be by the Arab prince, okay? So you'd be looking at that first one through the Arab prince, and then you see everything beginning, okay? We've covered that. But let me show you, if we go back from 99, 2000, and we go back 14 years, do you know where we end up? Have we ever talked about MBS before? Mohammed bin Salman. You see, Mohammed bin Salman, known as MBS, which I'm going to show you something about him as well. The youngest military ruler of any army in history, all right, or at least modern history. He is wealthier than all of the predecessors. These are all things that are spoken about in Daniel 11. All right? Stout. He's a very heavy set. He's a big guy, and he's very heavy set as well. Go look at pictures of him. He's a thick guy. All right? And it just turns out he's 33 years old this year. And you look at his birthday. Ta-da! Ishmael, an Arab, born 14 years before Christ is born, who is now 33 years old. And if Christ was here, all right, he'd be, 19 to 20 years old. And that 19 to 20 years old equals what? Their marriage and giving in marriage, right? And then when Christ returns, feet down, and he cleans up and the millennial begins, guess what? He's now ruling and reigning at the 33, you see? So guys, this connection that this idea that he had of, wait a second, when Abraham is 86, which is that 1985 to 1986, following it like the Psalms, and you carry that forward, well, let's see who was born in that quote-unquote 14 years before Christ. Isn't that interesting? It's Mohammed bin Salman. Let me show you something. You see, it's called the Arab Prince, who will really step up. See, at this time, Omar's son Leo just so happens to be this week. Do you know what else is about this guy that I've been talking to other people about? You see, Nostradamus had to hide some things. And I'm not going all Nostradamus, please, okay? Just to make some points that he's showing this same time. Do you know that Nostradamus has this thing here that he called this character in the end of days, he called him Mabus. For centuries, people have been trying to figure out who is Mabus. You see, they say Obama plus Barack from the U.S. You know, they make up they're making up all sorts of things, all right? They've been trying for a long time. You notice who's not on this list? Do you know that, like I said, Nostradamus had to hide things, right? He hid them for those that could seek the understanding in the times that they would be necessary. Do you think it's possible he added the vowels to hide it? If you take away the A and the S, you have M, B, S. You have Mohammed bin Salman, the Arab prince, 33 years old, born 14 years before the corresponding time of Isaac would have been born, who is the Arab Ishmael, who is known as MBS, who's stout, who's richer than his predecessors. And when his father dies, he's 85 or so years old now, he will be the king. You follow? Now check this out. If we keep following the understanding and we go into this book, 2nd Esdras, look at what we come across here, okay? We've covered this a number of times, but watch this. I'm trying to show you guys, don't just think because of that one that we're out of the woods and that it's not going to come this year or this month, okay? We've shown this before. The Most High will deliver those who are on the earth, right? That's the escape of the bride. Bewilderment will come to those that are dwelling on the earth, and they're going to start to make war against each other, city against city, right? Red horse rider time. And there'll be many other signs which occurred that I showed you. Then my son will be revealed, whom you saw coming up out of the sea, and every man that's fighting from these wars and all this stuff going on during seals, they're going to go into their own land, and they're going to gather back together. And what are they going to do? They're going to come, even though they're terrified. They're going to come. See, an innumerable multitude shall be gathered, as you saw, desiring to come to conquer him. Who? The Lord, the Lamb, coming on Zion, you see? But he shall stand on top of Mount Zion, And Zion will come to be made manifest to all people, prepared and built. You see, prepared and built. This is prepared and built that we read in Mark. This is prepared and built that we read in John, who gives us the 21 years, and we see it's in chapter 14, which is the year 2025 that we've been showing is the rapture year. Mount Zion is what? Chapter 14 of Revelation. First 7 easy years, the 7 years of seals, that's the first 14. And where are they? The Lamb in chapter 14 is on Zion with the 144,000. You see, where is Mount Zion now in the book of Zechariah? The Lord is now on Mount Zion in Zechariah. Trumpets are beginning, and they're going to start rebuilding the city and the streets. And where is it in Zechariah? It's in chapter 8, which is the year 2026, because it's showing he's now established there on Mount Zion, and they're going to start rebuilding the city and the streets, which is the 3.5 years of rebuilding the city and the streets of the first 3.5 years of trumpets. You see, but why are they coming against them first on Zion? Because it's the Ezekiel 38 or really 39 war. All right, to the end of seals, end of the 6th seal. That's what's going on. That mountain carved without hand. And then what do you see? And then it says, and as for you seeing him gather to himself another multitude that was peaceable, these are the 10 tribes. Well, how about that? The Lamb that came on Zion, who initially came for his lost sheep, is now gathering to himself the lost sheep, which is now the end of seals, the end of the church age. This is those being raptured to Mount Zion, the place prepared, like we've shown over and over and over again, precisely where the scriptures tell us they should be in their years. They even give us clues to years, like Ezekiel chapter 40, right? 38, 39, chapter 40, it even says the 25th year and the 14th. That's the same as saying Revelation chapter 14. It's the same as saying Zechariah chapter 7. It's the same as saying John verse 14. They all equal the same time frame. It's that 7th year of rest. You see, he's finished whooping them. Now the rapture takes place. And this is why I'm getting into this again, to show you this. These are the 10 tribes which were led away from their own land into captivity in the days of King Hosea. Remember we said Hosea? Hosea also with the 14 chapters, because the first portion, even though Israel is going to be attacked and dispersed, it won't remain everything going after Judah. It's going to turn to the Christians. It's going to be the time of the lost tribes, all right, that are scattered throughout the earth. And what happens? You see why he's talking King Hosea time? Look what happens at the beginning of the 14 years. Go get your wife of whoredom, all right, which is your wife of adultery, all right? That's what we are. We've repented, but that's what we are. All right, like saying the dogs. If you go read about Ruth, you'll see that same wording in what it means. It means adultery. You see, and then when we go to John, we go to John and we go to chapter 8, which I showed is the beginning of the 14 years. And what do we see? They come to him early in the morning of the temple, and they brought to him a woman taken in adultery. When you see that this is the end of Luke's discourse in chapter 21 of Luke, this is the talk of the bride going to be with the Lord. And here a woman is taken in adultery to the Lord. It's over and over and over again. So you see, that's why we see this time frame. Those 10 tribes that were taken during the time of Hosea. Not during the time of Zechariah the prophet, you see. But look at this. Who Shulamanser, the king of the Assyrians, led captive. across the river to another land. Isn't that interesting? I'm not going to go down that road, though. You see? Who? Shulamancer? What? You go follow the story of King Solomon, and you follow these stories and their lineage and their ancestry. That's why his name is Mohammed bin Salman. All right? Go follow the ancestry for yourselves, and you'll see it. Isn't that crazy? MBS, Mabus, and nobody could figure out for their life of them what Mabus is. But Nostradamus was always hiding things. Right? He had to conceal things. You see, they don't want to give him the crown, remember? Go read in Daniel, I think 11. They don't want to give him the crown, but he's going to come in peaceably. And through kind, nice words. All right? He's going to head it. He's building a nation called Neom in Saudi Arabia. All right? Which is a Babylon being built. All AI from start to finish. Telling you guys, this is our guy. And I bounced around on which guy. I've spoken about him many times as well, but more and more and more. And now we take another little thing that the scriptures give us that our brother shared, and what happens? Once again, it lands on MBS. Oh, and we're not done yet. Let me just see where we're at. Okay, so like I said, we're not done yet. We're right here today. If this is the true, and what happens? I love this too. This is a big deal for me, guys. This lands right on the 22nd. So if it's the true 7th of Av here, it lands on the 22nd of August, which is a big deal because 22 we know. It's 7, 7, 7. We keep saying 21 years, so the 7 easy years are gone, and then it's 14 years left. But there's always that 22nd year, which is the same as saying the 15th year. Well, because why? It's 22 letters in their alphabet. It's 22 in the book of Revelation chapters. 22 is the number, guys. And it would begin on the 22nd. Just another thing I find interesting. But what else is there? What else do we have going on this week? So we've got the beginning of the conjunction of this time that Nostradamus said. So guess what, guys? If Nostradamus is worth his weight in being understood in the sun, moon, and stars, then this week everybody better be watching and praying and repentant and keep from sin and seeking the Lord in prayer, praying for others like crazy. Because if Nostradamus is correct, I've explained and showed 20 years backward and over 23, 24 years forward, this conjunction that's taken place right here will never happen again during those years. And I'm sure much further out than that. So if it's wrong, I'd say Nostradamus is a liar too. He doesn't know what he's talking about and falsely predicted as well. Do you know, as a little side note before I get into this one, do you know what movie's coming out on the 23rd of August? Right? Just another thing that they're throwing in our faces. It's called Angel Has Fallen. It's that big Gerard Butler movie coming out. Right? Regarding, a Secret Service and the president and all those things. It's called Angel Has Fallen. At the time, he's telling us that angel that comes down, that fallen angel time will come. And when is he showing it to us? When are they showing it to us? Right in the time of that conjunction on the second day of destruction. Or you can say in the middle of that destruction, which would take place during the 7th and 8th, and by the 9th they'll be destroyed. And what do we have on the 21st of August? Do you know the 21st of August, guys, is what? It is the 2-year anniversary to the day. Now remember, we're not trying to line this up with a Hebrew clock or anything like that. Because why? It was over America. So if we look at the Gentile calendar, we're not looking to say, okay, well, it happened on X day on the Hebrew calendar back then. We're looking to the match on the Gentile calendar because it was over the Gentile land. All right? It was directly over the main Gentile land of America, and it was August 21st, 2017. Well, is there any other 2-year event before 14 years begin in the Bible? Yes, there is, isn't there? How about Joseph? Joseph, right? Joseph was 2 years in prison, and when he was released from prison, what came? 2 sets of 7 years. Now, do you think that's coincidence? Now, we have people that will say, I know, I was hesitant on wanting to bring it up because what do people say? They say, oh, but it was 7 good years. Oh, it was 7 good years, you say. Oh, it was all 7 good years. Do you know why it was, quote unquote, 7 good years? Why people say it was 7 good years? It was 7 years of plenty where they can prepare and so forth. But do you know what Joseph called it? What did Joseph call it? In the land of my affliction. In the land of my affliction, which is what? Let's go look at the word. Let's see if I have it already set here. No, I don't. You see, it wasn't a great, joyous, glorious time for Joseph. Oh yeah, he was given glory from the king. But where was he? Right? Where was he? He was in the land. Was it Hebrews 60:40, I think? He was in the land of his enemy. He was in the land of his captivity. So people say, oh, it was 7 good years. 7 good years for whom? It was 7 good years while in the time of the captivity. You see? Man, this is going super slow. But you go and follow this, and what do we see about this word affliction? When we go look up the word affliction, let's see if we can find it in some other places. Oh, look at this. Thou shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has heard thy affliction. It's the same word. You see, guys, this is what we're talking about. This is the affliction. Joseph was 2 years in prison. We have 2 years from the great eclipse, all right? It was a significant eclipse. And just to throw this out there, it never even dawned on me. You guys realize that the eclipse went from west to east? Our brother Charles was telling me about that. The eclipse went from west to east. I thought nothing of it. Well, which way does the sun rise and set? From east to west. So how does it track backwards? What? You see? Nobody talked about that. I never heard anything of it. Didn't even dawn on me. Why does the eclipse go backwards? The sun went in reverse? What? I just chalk it up there and say, wow, what is going on? Well, think of Nineveh now. Okay? We got Joseph in his 2 years. And then you've got the 2 years of prosperity for Pharaoh. All right, for Egypt, the land of the captivity. You see, when Israel is going to be attacked, where are they taken to? In the history of when we read these things and when we've been breaking them down in these books, where are they taken to? Egypt. Egypt. Right? And what does Jeremiah say? Hey, Jeremiah says, guys, you have a chance to now stay here. They were attacked once, and then they get attacked again, and they say, no, we don't want to stay here. We want to leave. And so what do? They go down, and now they're prisoners. The land will remain vacant for 7 years until trumpets when the Lord returns on Zion. And what happened? They were now prisoner in Egypt. You see, Jeremiah was there like that as well. And so what do? They're to plant and they're to do what they need to do while they're there, right? So it's the same idea. So here we are now at a 2-year significant marker. Very significant. What does this 2-year marker also bring us to? This 2-year marker also brings us, like we said, it brings us to the great eclipse. And again, just to reiterate, where? In this week of the conjunction. In this week where it should begin. In this week where it just so happens that our brother Mikhail, who has been teaching the creation calendar and the truth of it with the sun, moon, and stars for 15 years, with thousands of people all over the world, going out, not just using stellarium, but going out to see that these things be true year after year, month after month. And it just so happens that it wasn't off by a month this year. It wasn't right on. It wasn't a week before or 2 weeks before. It just so happened that his show's at landing on the 22nd, the week of the conjunction, in which Nostradamus saw it. You see? In the week that the 2-year time frame to the eclipse, with the next day being the attack. See what I'm saying, guys? We are not done yet. We are not done yet. Am I saying this is the escape? No. Could it be the escape? Sure. What do we look at again? We can look back at Luke 17, right? When they got into the ark and the door was closed. All right, and then the 40 days began. See, guys, we're still in this time frame. We're in it. It's August. We keep saying August, 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 and as much as this depressed us, and then we had this and we said, oh, maybe the scriptures, all of these scriptures that from Genesis to Revelation that have been getting revealed, that ministry revealed, maybe they're just off. Maybe there's just something we haven't understood and it's not true. It is true. It is true. And you see, maybe there's a little hint in here for us. When it says those 70 years, did you at all fast unto me, even to me? Is this a little bit of a clue that we have? Unto me, even to me. Why twice? Usually it's to pay attention when it's something being repeated like that. We don't have anything else given to us except that it just means I, me, and so forth. All right? It says for 70 years they did it. And I was talking with another brother who said, well, if you look when Israel began, and was it really in the 1948 where they would have been fasting and mourning, or is it based on the following year? Because if you go and do some research, you see that as soon as Israel was declared a nation on the 14th, well, by the 15th, they were at war with the neighbors. The war lasted just under 10 months. I think it was done in March or something like that. So did they even get a chance to observe in 1948? Which would mean that in 2019, they would observe the 5th and the 7th for the last time. And maybe that this is what it's getting at. That would put us to, that early mid-October time frame. But again, nothing goes beyond October because of this 5th and 7th. But I just have a very difficult time understanding that because they were already in the land. All right? The wars weren't right where they were necessarily in Jerusalem. They were fighting them on the outskirts. All right? So is it possible? Sure. We've been trying to figure this one out for a while in conjunction with all the other pieces we know. So is it possible? Absolutely. Do I think it is? No, I think we're looking at this week. This is not, I'm basing everything on, I'm saying with everything we have, with everything I've been shown. You see, I don't have, where else is there a 2-day for a 9th of off type thing against the IDF in 2019? Nothing. There's nothing else that computes. And that would have been 71 years. And to the next year of 72. I mean, you see, that's not what the scriptures say. Well, what else now do we have coming on September 23rd? You see, September 23rd wasn't something that just passed over America, right? It came over the whole earth. It came over the whole earth. I'm going to show you something as we finish this up. When it comes over the whole earth, you see, when does the 40 days end? Forget Rosh Hashanah because it would be a little bit later, correct? So October 1st is the 40 days from the 22nd, all right, from the attack. So if that's where the 40 days begin, from that first attack, that's the warning time, for example, which I believe it will be. 40 days is right here. So we have a week, right, the 7 days prior, right, because it's in here actually. So for the week prior, what do we have? 7 days before the end of the 40 would be the 2-year anniversary, right? We have the 2-year anniversary to September 23rd. So if it was a warning for the eclipse, and it was a warning for the Revelation 12 sign, well, they should probably follow in suit for their understanding, right? Well, guys, what have we gone to so often here? Right? Of course we always go to Luke. He's our trusted brother. He's our brother called light, remember? That's what we're going for, light. All right, Mark is called war. How appropriate. Matthew is called, what was it, the gift or something like that, right? Because the Lord's return. But see, what do we have here? We've gone into this many times. For those that are newer, Luke speaks to the bride of Christ. Mark speaks to the sleeping church that remains. Matthew speaks to Judah. And that is why when you see this story here spoken about in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, it's spoken of differently. In Luke, you have it speaking of when Jonah went into Nineveh and was the 40-day warning. In Mark, he says no sign will be given. And in Matthew, it says 3 days. Why? Because it's relating to the end. It's relating to the end time frame of trumpets. And so this 40-day warning that Jonah was unto the Ninevites, Jesus says, so shall the Son of Man be to this generation. It is the end time understanding revealed in this that the Son of Man is going to be the 40-day warning as Jonah was to the Ninevites. And look at what we see next, the very next verse. Does this mean all the 40 days before this verse can complete? No. It says, the queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment. You guys can see where I'm going now, can't you? The queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment with the men of this generation and shall condemn them. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Queen of the south now rising up. Didn't we have a queen of the south rising up to give us a type and shadow 2 years ago? Didn't we get a type and shadow 2 years ago, like Jonah when he went into Nineveh? What was one of the biggest reasons, or not necessarily but one of the big reasons? Because before Jonah got there, some believe it was very soon after, some believe it could have been even up to 2 years later. Because there are many things that represent a 2-year time period of gap from one event to another. And if Jonah showed up 2 years, because it wasn't just the eclipse and then 2 years later, there were many things that came about during that time frame. So that when Jonah got there, could you imagine a whole massive city like Nineveh? One of the biggest of its time back then? and even the king getting everybody to repent. Why? Because of the things they had seen. Do you think it was normal for them to see an eclipse go from west to east? No, they panicked. They were freaking out. So that, along with some other things, when Jonah gets there, they were ripe and ready to repent. But in this day and age, everybody's too distracted. So they're not ready to repent. They just think, there it was, another great eclipse. So here's our sign of Jonah. And then if this is the true 7th of Av, the next day is destruction. Anniversary of 2 years, boom, destruction comes. All right? They're to flee, they're sent, they scatter all over the place. They're being brought to Egypt, so on and so forth. All right? Why would it be 7 years of quote-unquote prosperity in that story with Joseph? Because it's the time of who? The Arabs. The time of their Mahdi, the Antichrist. So it will be prosperous times for them. You follow? And then the 7 others is what? That's when it's going to get tough for the whole earth, it says. You see? It's another type and shadow. And the 14 years, you can have your 40 days. 14 years begins. 2-year anniversary, just as Jonah was unto Nineveh. You have the Son of Man. And then you have, just continuing like Luke 11 said, you have the 40 days as the Son of Man will be as Jonah was. And in that time frame, we have now the 2-year anniversary to the Revelation 12 sign. And what does Luke 11 say? And the queen of the south shall rise up in the judgment of that generation to condemn those men, the men of that generation. And what do we have? We go to Revelation 12. And what do we see? Everybody liked to say that was it. That was the sign. That was the sign. No, it was a sign of what's coming. It was to start waking people up. How many people here on this channel, in this ministry, can say that in that time frame, say of early-ish to mid to October-ish, November of 2017, when they were really getting into and really following this Revelation 12 sign, that's when many things in their lives changed. That's when they got more committed and they really started seeking the Lord more and more and more. I know I did. You've heard my story. I know our brother Jimmy did. I know, there's so many of you. I've had at least a dozen emails, at least, plus comments, maybe another dozen or two, that has said it was all in that time frame, summer to fall of 2017. All right, it got us watching. But Luke says, through Jesus' words, that after that verse, when the Son of Man will be that 40-day sign, during that time frame, the woman of the south would rise up in the judgment. You see, everybody keeps skipping over verse 2. Why are they skipping over verse 2? Because they don't understand it. This travailing in pain to be delivered, all right, this travailing is the tribulation, guys. It is, see, pain, sorrow, travail. These things are describing torture, toil, torment. These are the seals. These are the judgments, the second, third, fourth rider. These are the judgments. This is the wars and the beheadings taking place and all that stuff beginning. This is the judgment that she's bringing upon the men of that generation. And here we have this year with a week to go from the end of the 40 days, we have the time when she would rise up. Well, in that timing of rising up, you know what it made me think of? Was Psalms chapter 18. I keep telling you guys, Psalms 18 hasn't happened yet. But when you read Psalms 18 through verse 24, 27, through verse 24-ish, these things that are taking place here don't strike me as things that take 40 days. All right? Sorrows of death compassed me about, sorrows of hell, death prevented me. In my distress I called upon the Lord out of his temple. He shook the earth and trembled at the hills. He was wroth. Nostrils, right? We're talking about earthquakes and volcanoes and, him coming and riding upon a cherub. He did fly. Yes, he did fly upon the wings of the wind and made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about were dark waters and thick clouds of sky. This hasn't happened yet. Is it possible that what's actually taking place at that point there, when all of that erupts, is because the Queen of the South, who's coming in the destruction of that generation, right? With the time frame of those things erupting and earthquakes and all those devastations, that for that final week, that final 7 days that the bride is here to experience that, possibly, right? Because those who are being saved out of it are those whose hands were cleaned. All right? Channels of water we're seeing. It's a major ripping apart of the earth. And what did he do? He delivered me from my strong enemy. He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. The Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanness of my hands, he recompensed me. You see, we did a video on this, on the cleanness here. These are those whose hands were already cleaned, who were already repentant, who were already seeking and watching for the Lord. But look at this stuff that happens before it. This isn't something that strikes me as being a 40-day long type of thing. But maybe several days? I think that's possible. And here we are in this time frame of all of this taking place. I'm going to show you, let me show you this one too. We covered this before. I've shown this many times. This is one that I also asked the Lord, because I'm saying, Lord, what are we missing with this? I believe Stan from Prophecy Club, I believe his wife, she heard audible words, 6 things that the Lord told her. He added some of his own things that he thought timed in here as well. But the first thing she heard from the Lord is Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Meteor hit, he added that because he thinks it's at the beginning. I think it's later, but it is possible. And then it says catastrophe hits America. So Omer ushers in Palestinian state. So what's this thing that could usher in the Palestinian state? Is it something that would usher in the Palestinian state this week? Or is this the destruction that takes place? Remember? Daniel 9:25. There's going to be a decree to rebuild the city and the streets, but then it won't happen for 7 years, right? Why? Because they'll be attacked again. All right? That's revealed in the first and second attack from the king of Babylon compared to after the end of 40 days. So when we look at this and we look at this timing, does that mean the deal has to be here? No, not necessarily. That deal can come later on in here. All right, before what? If this is the anniversary when the chaos would break out, well, then maybe that peace deal is going to be announced in here when things settle down from this attack. All right, go read that story in Jeremiah, 40 through 42, and you see the story. All right, it goes back to the first attack. They put somebody in place. We've talked about it many times. And then they put Gedaliah in place. And then the Ishmael comes in at the end of 40. You see all these things that we've shown before that tie into Luke 21's discourse. So, when we're looking at this, what are we looking at in regards to this Omer? When she first heard these words, she thought it related to maybe, what's his name, Ehud Omer, who was the prime minister in Israel at the time. Of course, that never happened. Then we started, myself saying, and with others, that maybe it has to do with the counting of the Omer, right, at the end of 50 or at the end of 99 days. What if it wasn't Omer, but Omer? I know that sounded similar, didn't it? What if she's the one involved? Suddenly, these two women want to go to Israel for the plight of, actually, they want to go to Israel for the Palestinians for their plight. They were blocked by Trump. This one is then told she's allowed to go for her grandmother, and she changes her mind and says, no, I don't want to go. Why? She's not important. She's not the one. It's all about her. She wants to go to Israel for Palestine. All right, she was put into power as a refugee. She is now sitting in, what was it, Congress or a senator or whatever it is, out of nowhere like Obama was. And Obama was the one that threw her in on his way out. She came out of nowhere. And what's her name? Omar. Could it be, is it possible that the Omer ushers in the Palestinian state? It wasn't Omer, but Omar. You see, in hearing those audible words, is it Omar, Congresswoman Omar, that's going to be the one to usher in the Palestinian state? Right? We know Trump's got this deal done, right? Is it going to be through that? Is she going to be the one to help push it through? Right? Is she going to be working on that end, and it's this game of cat and mouse right now? Because let's not forget, guys, as we wrap this up, let's not forget, Israel goes to the elections right here. From here to here, that peace deal will be completed. When that peace deal is completed, Israel, America will get that earthquaking, shaking. So will much of the world. I believe this first attack, if this turns out to be that 7th of Av, remember, this is not attacking the whole earth here. This is the beginning. This is the attack against Israel, the land of Israel, that will settle things and bring in and usher in to get that peace deal done. Then they will be attacked again, yes. They'll be attacked on the true 3rd of Tishri, which wouldn't be here. If this Thursday is the real 7th of Av, it would be down here. All right? This wouldn't actually be here. It would be 2 weeks later. So this would be the time of the second attack, of which the bride will not be here for, which is why we see a bunch of chaos. We see beheadings and these things that will take place during a short period of time in Luke's discourse. And then it says, and when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, know that the desolation thereof is nigh, but you don't see the desolation of it. That's the second desolation. Because the first attack is to get them to smarten up. And they'll be attacked and they'll be defeated in 2 days. The second one will be to wipe them out, and they will no longer want to remain there. And for 7 years, it'll be empty. We are still in this time, guys. The scriptures show us so, and it's becoming more and more clear on the characters and in something that nobody could mess with. The sun, moon, and stars, all in conjunction on the anniversary at the time this conjunction was said to happen. Guys, we're close. I pray for you guys daily. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys all around the world. I love receiving your emails and your comments. I know I don't respond to them all, but I read just about every comment. Not everyone, because that's not the easiest thing to do always. And to all your emails. I look at all your emails. I just don't always respond, but know that I do read them. Some of them I save with the intent to get back to them, but I don't always get back. But I do try as much as I can as I'm in my studies as well. All right, guys. So please understand, we are moments away. Whether it does all take place this week, it is coming soon. There is no other year for the scriptures, the prophets, the seers, the teachers have shown us so. I love you guys. God bless you. Talk to you soon.